Dad suspended me from home until I apologized to my golden child sister. I just said, all right. The next morning, I was gone. And what followed destroyed them all. Sup Reddit. My dad suspended me from my own house because I defended myself from my sister. I said, all right, and walked out the next morning. 5 years later, they're begging me to come back while I'm living my best life. Here's how their perfect family fell apart. I'm Justin, 22 male, and this story starts when I was 17. But to understand why I walked out, you need to understand what life was like before that day. My sister Ashley, 15 female at the time, has been the golden child since birth. I'm talking about the kind of favoritism that's so obvious even strangers notice it. When we'd go out to dinner, servers would comment on how the daughter must be the favorite, based on how my parents acted. That's not an exaggeration. It happened multiple times. Growing up, Ashley got everything she wanted. New clothes every season while I wore hand-me-downs from cousins. The latest phone while I used a 3-year-old model. Dance lessons, art classes, summer camps. Whatever she asked for, she got. Meanwhile, I was told to be responsible and save for college whenever I wanted anything. The rules were different too. Ashley's curfew was whenever she felt like coming home. Mine was 9 p.m. on weekends, even as a senior. She could have friends over any time. I had to ask 3 days in advance, and only if Ashley didn't have plans. Her room was her private space that nobody could enter. My room. Fair game for anyone, apparently. I learned early that complaining about the double standard just made things worse. Dad would lecture me about being jealous of my sister. Mom would cry about me causing family drama. Ashley would smirk and find ways to make things worse when our parents weren't looking. By the time I was 15, I'd basically given up on equal treatment. Just kept my head down, focused on school and my part-time job at the hardware store, and counted days until college. The job started as stocking shelves, but I learned to mix paint, cut keys, and help customers find what they needed. Mr. Wilson, the owner, was a good guy who treated me like an actual person instead of an inconvenience. The hardware store became my escape. I'd volunteer for extra shifts just to avoid being home. Mr. Wilson noticed and started teaching me more. Basic plumbing, electrical work, how to read blueprints. Said I had a good head for practical stuff and shouldn't waste it on just stocking shelves. You've got common sense, he told me once. That's rarer than you think. Most people can learn facts. Not everyone can learn to think. That meant more to me than any compliment my parents ever gave. But back to that Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. Picture this. I'm in my room trying to finish calculus homework that's due the next day. Not bothering anyone, just trying to understand derivatives because Mr. Patterson's tests are brutal and I need to keep my GPA up for college applications. Had my notes spread out, textbook open, calculator and laptop all going at once. This particular assignment was worth 20% of our quarter grade, and I needed an A to maintain my average. My sister Ashley barges in without knocking. Standard operating procedure for her. She never knocked, never asked permission, just walked into my space like she owned it. This time she wanted to borrow my laptop because hers was charging, and she needed to finish some project that was due tomorrow. No, I said, not even looking up from my work. I'm using it. Come on, Justin. I just need it for like 10 minutes. Ashley, it's charging right now. Wait 30 minutes. I can't wait 30 minutes. This is due first period. I looked up at her then. And my calculus homework is due first period too. Plus, last time I let you use my laptop, you downloaded something that gave it a virus. Cost me $40 to fix. Her face got that pouty expression she uses when she's not getting her way. That wasn't my fault. The website said it was safe. The website was called freemusicdownloads.ru. Nothing about that screams safe. You're being a jerk. I'm being someone who needs his laptop for homework. Use the family computer downstairs. Mom's using it for her work stuff. Then wait for yours to charge. Or do your work at school tomorrow morning. That's when her tone shifted from whiny to nasty. God, you're so selfish. You never help me with anything. You're the worst brother ever. I'd heard variations of this speech hundreds of times. Usually I just ignored it and waited for her to leave. But this time she wasn't leaving. Just stood there listing all my failures as a brother, while I tried to focus on derivatives. Are you even listening to me? She demanded. Nope. See? This is what I mean. You don't even care. Ashley, I have homework due tomorrow. You have homework due tomorrow. The difference is I planned ahead and you didn't. That's not my problem. Her face went red. You think you're so much better than me because you get good grades and have some stupid job. I don't think I'm better than you. I think I'm busy and you need to leave. That's when she grabbed my textbook off my desk and threw it across the room. The book hit the wall with a solid thud. pages bending, my bookmark falling out. I'd been on page 247. Now I had no idea where I'd left off. I stood up, keeping my voice level. Get out of my room. Make me. Ashley, I'm not playing this game. Get out. She responded by shoving me, hard, both hands against my chest, using all her strength. I wasn't expecting it. We're siblings, we argued, but it never got physical before. I stumbled backward, hip hitting my desk, arms flailing to catch my balance. My hand hit my water bottle, knocked it over, sent 20 ounces of water cascading across my desk. My homework, my notes, 3 hours of work, all soaked. The ink started running immediately, equations bleeding into illegible blurs. The papers I'd carefully organized started sticking together. My calculator made a sad beeping noise as water seeped into the buttons. I watched it happen in slow motion. All that work, gone. Because Ashley wanted my laptop and couldn't handle being told no. Something snapped inside me. Not anger. Anger would have been easier. This was cold, clear realization. She just destroyed hours of my work and didn't even look sorry. She looked satisfied. I grabbed her arm, not roughly but firmly, and physically moved her toward the door. Didn't yank, didn't shove back, just escorted her out like you'd remove someone from a store who was causing problems. She tried to pull away, but I kept moving her until she was in the hallway. Stay out, I said, closing the door. She started pounding on it immediately. I'm telling Dad, you put your hands on me. You're going to be in so much trouble. I didn't respond, just stood there looking at my ruined homework, water still dripping off the desk onto my carpet. 3 hours of work, gone, and I had nothing to turn in tomorrow. 5 minutes later, Dad was pounding on my door. The banging was aggressive, the kind that rattled the frame. Justin, open this door right now. I opened it slowly. Dad stood there, face already red, veins in his neck standing out. Behind him, Ashley had tears streaming down her face. Perfect performance tears. I'd seen her turn them on and off like a faucet since she was 8. Why did you put your hands on your sister? Dad demanded before I could say anything. She was in my room destroying my property. I removed her. She says you grabbed her and shoved her into the hallway. I didn't shove her. I escorted her out after she threw my textbook and ruined my homework. Dad glanced into my room, saw the wet papers on my desk, the textbook on the floor. His expression didn't change. I don't care what she did. You don't put your hands on your sister. Ever. Ashley stood there with that smug look starting to break through the tears. She knew exactly what she was doing. This was a performance, and Dad was her audience. Look at my desk, I said, pointing. 3 hours of calculus homework. Ruined. Because she wanted my laptop and I said no. You can redo it, Dad said dismissively. It's due tomorrow morning. First period. Then you better get started. He crossed his arms. But first, you need to apologize to your sister. I looked between them. Dad with his self-righteous expression. Ashley with her fake tears and hidden smile. The wet homework dripping onto my carpet. For what? I asked. She came into my room, demanded my stuff, destroyed my property, and physically attacked me when I wouldn't give in. What exactly am I apologizing for? For putting your hands on her. Now. I stared at my father, this man who was supposed to protect me, support me, believe me. He'd already decided I was guilty without even asking my side of the story. One look at Ashley's tears, and that was it. Trial over. Verdict reached. No, I said. Dad's face went from red to purple. What did you just say to me? I said no. I'm not apologizing for something I didn't do wrong. Ashley attacked me. I defended myself and my property. I'm not sorry for that. You grabbed your sister and shoved her. I escorted her out of my room after she assaulted me. There's a difference. Ashley's tears were flowing harder now, right on cue. Her shoulders were shaking with sobs that looked real if you didn't know her. But I'd watched her perfect this routine for years. The same tears she used when she wanted something expensive. The same sob that got her out of trouble at school. The same performance that had worked on our parents 1,000 times before. Assault? Dad's voice went up an octave. She's your little sister. You're twice her size. I'm 6 inches taller and maybe 30 pounds heavier. That doesn't mean she gets to hit me without consequences. She didn't hit you. She pushed you. There's a difference. The irony was amazing. When Ashley laid hands on me, it was just pushing. When I removed her from my room, it was assault. The double standard was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Dad, look at my homework. Actually look at it. He glanced at my desk, barely seeing it. I see wet paper. You can redo it. It's 3 hours of calculus. Due tomorrow. First period. I don't have 3 hours tonight because I also have English reading, a history quiz to study for, and a shift at the hardware store until 8. You should have thought of that before you put your hands on your sister. Ashley was watching this exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. The tears had magically stopped flowing. She wiped her face dramatically, leaving just enough redness to look like she'd been crying, but her eyes were sharp and calculating. "I want an apology," she said, voice quivering. "He scared me." "I scared you?" "I couldn't help it." I laughed. It wasn't funny, but the audacity was so extreme I had to laugh or I'd lose my mind. "You came into my room, destroyed my property, physically attacked me, and I scared you? You grabbed me!" She raised her voice, getting worked up again. "You hurt my arm!" "Show me the bruise then." She rolled up her sleeve dramatically. There was nothing there, not a mark, because I hadn't grabbed her hard enough to leave any evidence. I'd just firmly moved her toward the door. "It still hurts, even if you can't see it," she whimpered. Dad put his arm around her shoulders. "Justin, apologize to your sister. Now." I looked at this scene. My father comforting my sister who just destroyed my homework and attacked me. Both of them looking at me like I was the villain. Neither of them caring about my side of the story. "No," I said again. Calmer this time. Certain. That's when Dad dropped the bomb. "Fine. You're suspended." I blinked. "Suspended from what? I didn't do anything at school." "From this house. You're grounded until you apologize to Ashley. No phone, no computer, no going out with friends, no leaving your room except for school and meals. You want to act like you don't respect your family? You can sit in your room and think about your behavior." The punishment was so wildly disproportionate that I just stood there processing it. Indefinite grounding. Solitary confinement in my own house? All because I wouldn't apologize for defending myself. "For how long?" I asked quietly. "Until you apologize. And if I don't apologize, then you stay suspended. Your choice, Justin. This is on you." Ashley had given up pretending to cry. She was watching me with this look of triumph, waiting to see if I'd break, waiting to see if I'd fold like I always had before when they pressured me enough. I looked at my ruined homework, at my textbook on the floor, at my sister's satisfied face, at my father who'd already made up his mind without hearing my side. "All right," I said. Dad looked surprised. He'd expected more fight, probably expected me to yell, to argue, to eventually give in and apologize just to make it stop. That's how it usually went. I just stared at him. Ashley was practically glowing with victory behind him. "How long?" I asked. "Until you apologize?" I looked at my ruined homework, my soaked notes, my sister's satisfied face. Then I looked at my dad, who'd already decided I was guilty without caring about what actually happened. "All right," I said. Dad looked surprised. He'd expected more fight. "Good. Hand over your phone and laptop." I gave them to him without argument. He left looking satisfied, Ashley trailing behind, throwing me one last smug look. I closed my door and sat on my bed. Wasn't angry, wasn't upset, just calm. Crystal clear about what I needed to do. I'd been saving money from my part-time job at the hardware store for 2 years. Had about $3,400 in my dresser drawer in an envelope. Been planning to use it for college expenses, but plans change. Spent that night packing a duffel bag. Clothes, important documents, the cash. Some personal items that actually mattered. Left behind anything I didn't absolutely need. The laptop was Dad's anyway since he'd confiscated it, and the phone was on their plan. Around midnight, I heard Ashley and Mom talking in the hallway outside my door. They weren't trying to be quiet. Probably thought I was asleep or too upset to pay attention. Ashley's voice carried clearly through my closed door. He was so mad. "You should have seen his face when Dad took his phone. I thought he was going to explode." "Well, he brought it on himself," Mom replied. "You were just asking to borrow something. He completely overreacted." "Exactly! And then he grabbed me so hard. My arm still hurts." I sat on my bed listening to this revision of history. In Ashley's version, she'd politely asked to borrow my laptop. I'd flown into a rage for no reason. She was the victim of my aggression, not the person who destroyed my homework and physically attacked me. "I'm proud of you for standing up to him," Mom said. "You were brave for not letting your big brother intimidate you." "Thanks, Mom." I was really scared when he grabbed me. This was the problem. They weren't just enabling her behavior. They were actively rewriting events to paint her as the victim and me as the aggressor. In their minds, this story was already set. Ashley was brave for defending herself against her aggressive older brother. I was the problem child who needed to learn respect. Nothing I said would change that narrative. They'd already decided what happened, and facts didn't matter. That's what sealed it for me. That conversation in the hallway where they rewrote reality to fit their preferred version. I could live with being punished unfairly. What I couldn't live with was knowing they genuinely believed their own lies. After their voices faded away, I got up and continued packing more carefully. Went through my desk drawers and found old report cards, evidence of good grades they'd never acknowledged. Found photos from school events they'd never attended because Ashley had something more important that day. Found birthday cards from friends at school, but none from my family for the past 3 years. Everything important, everything that proved I existed and mattered, went into the backpack. Everything that tied me to this house stayed behind. Set my alarm for 5 a.m. and tried to sleep. Didn't really succeed. Kept running through the plan in my head. Uncle Bobby lived about 45 minutes away by car. I'd only been to his house twice, but I remembered the address. He'd told me once, half joking, that if I ever needed a place to crash, his door was open. Time to find out if he'd meant it. When the alarm went off at 5 a.m., I felt calm. Grabbed my backpack, took one last look around the room. 17 years of my life in this space. None of it felt worth staying for. Walked downstairs quietly. The house was completely silent. Left my note on the kitchen table where they'd find it first thing. Short and simple. Gone. Don't look for me. Then I walked out the front door, got in my Honda Civic, and drove to Uncle Bobby's house. The drive felt surreal. Watching the sun come up over familiar streets, knowing I wasn't going back. Every mile that passed felt like weight lifting off my shoulders. By the time I pulled into Bobby's driveway, I felt lighter than I had in years. By the time anyone woke up, I was already at my Uncle Bobby's place across town. Uncle Bobby is my dad's younger brother, but they're nothing alike. Bobby's a mechanic who owns his own shop called Bobby's Auto Repair. Real creative naming, but it worked. Never married, said he tried it once in his 20s and decided he liked his independence better. Lives in a decent 3-bedroom house he bought himself back in the early 2000s before prices went crazy. He's the family black sheep because he didn't go to college or get a respectable office job like Dad did. Dad works in insurance claims, wears a suit, goes to an office. Bobby wears coveralls, works with his hands, smells like motor oil most days. Dad always looked down on him for wasting his potential, but Bobby seemed happy in ways Dad never did. When I showed up at his door at 6 a.m. with a duffel bag, he was already awake making coffee. Mechanics keep early hours. He looked at me standing there, saw the backpack, and just nodded. Come in, kid. You look like you need coffee. Didn't ask what happened. Didn't demand explanations. Just made me sit at his kitchen table and poured me a cup with enough cream and sugar that it barely tasted like coffee anymore. You want to talk about it? He asked after a few minutes of silence. So I told him everything. Started with the laptop incident, but as I talked, it all came pouring out. Years of watching Ashley get everything while I got blamed for everything. The double standards. The favoritism so obvious that even teachers at school had commented on it. The way Mom and Dad would immediately take her side no matter what actually happened. Bobby listened without interrupting. When I got to the part about Dad suspending me indefinitely, he actually laughed. Your dad suspended you? From your own house? For defending yourself? Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've heard in years. And I once watched a guy try to change his oil filter without draining the oil first. That made me laugh despite everything. First time I'd laughed in 24 hours. So here's the deal, Bobby said, leaning back in his chair. You can stay here as long as you need, but you're gonna work. I don't do freeloaders, family or not. What kind of work? I need help at the shop. Guy who does my oil changes and tire rotations just quit because he got some fancy job at the dealership. Position's yours if you want it. Minimum wage to start, but I'll teach you real skills. Cars, not just oil changes, real mechanical work. When do I start? Monday. Give you the weekend to get settled. You can take the spare bedroom upstairs. It's got a bed and a dresser. Not much, but it's yours. I took the deal without hesitation. This was the first time in my life someone had offered me something fair. Work for pay. Respect in exchange for effort. No games, no manipulation, no favoritism. Just honest trade. That first week was interesting. My phone had been blowing up with calls and messages, but since Dad confiscated it, all those messages went to a device sitting in his desk drawer. They had no way to reach me directly. Bobby's landline rang a few times, but he let it go to voicemail. When he finally picked up on Thursday afternoon, it was Mom. Is Justin there? I could hear her voice from across the room. Yep, we need him to come home. This has gone on long enough. He's not coming home. Bobby, this is family business. Stay out of it. Kid 17, almost 18. He made his choice. You made yours when you let Ashley walk all over him for years. That's not what happened. Sure it's not. Justin's staying here. He's got a job, He's pulling his weight, and nobody's making him apologize for things he didn't do. He hung up, looked at me. They're gonna show up eventually. You ready for that? I nodded. Yeah. Working at Bobby's shop was the best decision I'd made in years. Started with basic stuff, oil changes and tire rotations, but Bobby actually taught me. Explained how engines worked, what each part did, why things broke, and how to fix them properly instead of just replacing parts. The other guys at the shop, Jake and Tommy, were cool. Both in their 20s, both career mechanics who actually enjoyed their work. They didn't care about my age or family drama, just cared if I could hand them the right wrench and didn't complain about getting dirty. Jake especially took me under his wing. He'd been working on cars since he was 15, dropped out of high school to apprentice at a shop, now made decent money and owned a nice truck. He taught me the difference between doing a job fast and doing it right. Fast gets you more customers, he explained while we were replacing someone's transmission. Right gets you repeat customers. Repeat customers are what builds a business. Within 2 months, I was handling basic repairs independently. Brake jobs, exhaust work, minor engine diagnostics. Bobby started paying me more, $12 an hour instead of minimum wage. Not a fortune, but honest money for honest work. My 18th birthday came and went without any contact from my family. Bobby got me a toolbox, the kind with all the compartments and a good lock. Jake and Tommy pitched in for a basic tool set to fill it. Now you're official, Bobby said. Real mechanics got his own tools. That toolbox meant more to me than any birthday present my parents ever gave me. By month 4, I'd saved up enough to buy a beater truck from an auction. 1998 Ford Ranger with 180,000 miles needed work, but the frame was solid. Bobby let me use the shop after hours to fix it up. Replaced the timing belt, did a full brake job, fixed the exhaust leak, rebuilt the carburetor. Jake helped with the electrical issues. Tommy showed me how to patch rust spots properly. 3 weeks later, I had a running truck that I'd bought and fixed with my own money and skills. That's when my family finally showed up. I was under a Honda Civic changing the oil pan gasket when I heard the shop bell ring. Rolled out on the creeper to see Dad, Mom, and Ashley standing in the bay. They looked out of place. Dad in his business casual, Mom in her department store outfit, Ashley in some designer clothes I didn't recognize. Meanwhile, I was covered in oil and dirt, wearing coveralls that had seen better days. Justin, Dad said, we need to talk. I'm working. This is important. I stood up, wiped my hands on a rag. Bobby appeared from his office, coffee cup in hand. He didn't say anything, just positioned himself where he could see everything. What do you want? I asked. Mom stepped forward. We want you to come home. This has gone on long enough. You've made your point. What point? That you were upset. We understand. But you can't just run away from your problems. I almost laughed. I didn't run away from problems. I removed myself from a situation where I was being punished for defending myself. Ashley finally spoke up. I'm sorry for what happened. Can we just move past this? Her apology sounded rehearsed, forced, like someone had told her she had to say it. What exactly are you sorry for? I asked. For the fight, for getting you in trouble. What about destroying my homework? Lying about what happened? Making yourself cry to manipulate Dad? She looked uncomfortable. I didn't lie. Yeah, you did. And you've been doing it for years. I'm just done being your punching bag. Dad's face was getting red. Justin, enough. You're coming home. This independence thing has gone on long enough. I'm 18. You can't make me do anything. You're still in high school. You need to finish your education. I am finishing. I transferred to the evening program. Graduate in 2 months. That shut him up. He didn't know I'd been going to night school while working at the shop. Didn't know I was on track to get my diploma on time despite leaving home. We're your family, Mom tried. You can't just cut us off. Watch me. Ashley was looking around the shop with this disgusted expression. You're seriously going to stay here? Working on cars like some dropout? Better than sitting at home getting everything handed to me while learning nothing useful. Her face went bright red. I'm not a dropout. Didn't say you were. But at least I'm learning actual skills instead of just learning how to manipulate people. Dad stepped forward, pointing his finger. That's enough. You're being disrespectful. And you suspended me from my own house for defending myself. Guess we're even. Bobby finally spoke up. I think you folks should leave. Justin's made his choice. Respect it. This doesn't concern you, Dad snapped. Kids living in my house, working in my shop. That makes it my concern. They stood there for another minute, clearly expecting me to cave, when I just stared back at them. Not moving, not backing down. They finally left. Ashley turned at the door. You'll regret this. Doubt it. After they left, Bobby clapped me on the shoulder. That was hard. Yeah, you did good. I finished the Honda and went back to work. Didn't cry, didn't feel bad, didn't second guess my decision. Just kept building the life I'd chosen. Graduated high school that May. Evening ceremony with about 40 other students, mostly adults finishing their degrees. Bobby came, brought Jake and Tommy with him. Took a photo of me in my cap and gown standing next to my truck. Nobody from my family showed up. Didn't expect them to, didn't invite them. But there was a small part of me that wondered if they'd come anyway. They didn't. 2 weeks after graduation, Bobby made me an offer. You've been here 9 months. Learned fast, work hard, customers like you. How about we make it official? Official how? Partnership. Not equal shares, not yet. But 20% of the shop profits. You keep working, keep learning, keep building the business with me, that percentage goes up every year. I didn't know what to say. This was more than a job. This was a future. What's the catch? I asked. No catch. You've earned it. Plus, I'm not getting any younger. Rather have someone I trust building this with me than sell to some corporate chain when I retire. We shook on it. Bobby drew up the papers legal, filed with the state. At 18 years old, I was a partial owner of a legitimate business. Summer was busy. Word got around that Bobby's shop did good work for fair prices, and the bays stayed full. We hired another mechanic, older guy named Frank, who'd been laid off from the dealership, brought in more complicated jobs, taught me advanced electrical diagnostics. By August, I'd saved enough to move into my own place. Small studio apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Bobby helped me move the few things I owned, including that toolbox that meant everything. You're doing good, kid, he said after we finished. Your dad doesn't know what he lost. That statement proved more accurate than either of us knew. The calls started in September. Not from my parents, but from extended family. Aunt Karen, Grandma, even a cousin I barely remembered, all saying the same thing. I needed to come back. The family was falling apart. Ashley was out of control. I ignored most of them. But when my grandma called Bobby's shop directly, I took it. Justin, sweetheart, please talk to your parents. Why? Things are bad. Ashley's in trouble. What kind of trouble? Grandma hesitated. She's pregnant. I didn't say anything for a minute. How far along? 4 months. The father's not in the picture. Your parents are devastated. That's unfortunate. Justin, please. They need you. They needed me to apologize for defending myself. I needed them to believe me instead of automatically taking her side. We don't always get what we need. You're being cruel? No, Grandma. I'm being honest. Ashley made choices. She can deal with the consequences. I hung up. Felt bad about talking to my grandma like that, but I wasn't going back to fix problems they'd created. Jake asked what that was about. I explained the whole situation, the pregnancy, the family falling apart. Damn, he said. That's rough. Yeah. You feel bad? Little bit. Don't. They made their bed. Now they're sleeping in it. He was right. This wasn't my problem to solve, but the calls kept coming. More family, more friends, everyone saying I needed to step up and be the bigger person. Like I was somehow responsible for fixing the mess Ashley created. Then Dad showed up at the shop again. This time alone, looking older and more tired than I remembered. Justin, we need to talk. Really talk. I was changing a transmission. Didn't stop working. So talk. Ashley's pregnant. She's keeping the baby. We need help. Help with what? Everything. We can't afford a baby. Your mother's hours got cut at work. I'm barely covering the mortgage and bills. And Ashley's still in school? Sounds difficult? Don't be like that. We're family. I put down my tools and looked at him. You keep saying that. Family. Like it's supposed to mean something after you kick me out for defending myself. We didn't kick you out. You left. You suspended me indefinitely for not apologizing to Ashley after she assaulted me and destroyed my property. What was I supposed to do? We expected you to apologize and move on, not abandon your family. I didn't abandon anyone. I chose not to be a scapegoat anymore. Dad ran his hand through his hair. Look, I'm not here to argue about the past. I'm asking for help. We need money. The baby's due in 5 months, and we're not prepared. Get a second job. I'm 52 years old, Justin. I can't work 2 jobs. I was 17 working part-time and going to school. You'll figure it out. Why are you being so difficult? I turned back to the transmission. I'm not being difficult. I'm just not solving your problems anymore. Ashley wanted to act like an adult. Make adult choices. Now she gets adult consequences. She's 16. Old enough to get pregnant. Old enough to deal with reality. Dad stood there for a long minute. Finally asked, "Is this really what you want? To cut off your entire family over one argument?" It wasn't one argument. It was years of watching Ashley get away with everything while I got blamed for existing. That incident with the laptop was just the final straw. We made mistakes. We're trying to fix them. No, you're trying to get money from me because Ashley's situation is expensive and inconvenient. There's a difference. He left without another word. That winter was brutal. Not for me. Business at the shop was steady. I was learning more every day. My little apartment was warm and paid for. But my family was drowning. Through the grapevine, I heard it all. Dad had to take out a second mortgage. Mom was working two part-time jobs with irregular hours. Ashley had dropped out of school because she couldn't keep up with classes while pregnant. The baby was born in February. Girl. I saw the announcement on social media from some distant cousin. Ashley looked exhausted in the photo, holding this tiny wrinkled thing while my parents stood behind her looking shell-shocked. Grandma called again. You have a niece. Congratulations to Ashley. Don't you want to meet her? Not particularly. Justin, she's family. So am I. Didn't stop them from choosing Ashley over me every single time. They're struggling. The baby needs things. Ashley's overwhelmed. Your parents are working themselves to death trying to provide. They should have thought about that before enabling Ashley's behavior for 16 years. You're being heartless. No, Grandma. I'm being realistic. They made choices. Actions have consequences. I learned that lesson when I was suspended for defending myself. Now they're learning it too. She hung up on me. Haven't spoken to her since. The calls from my family got more desperate over the next few months. Dad asking for loans. Mom suggesting I move back home to help with expenses. Ashley sending messages about how hard it was being a single teen mom, and couldn't I spare some money for baby supplies. I ignored them all. Not out of spite, but because helping them would just enable the same patterns that drove me away. They needed to face reality without me as their safety net. By summer, things got worse for them. Dad lost his job, some corporate restructuring thing. Mom's hours got cut again. They were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Meanwhile, I bought a better truck, fixed up the old Ranger and sold it for decent profit, bought a newer Silverado with lower miles. Bobby increased my profit share to 30% after we had our best year ever. I was putting money into savings, building real financial security. The contrast wasn't lost on me. Year and a half ago, I was living under their roof, following their rules, being blamed for everything Ashley did. Now I was independent, successful, building something real. And they were falling apart without me there to blame. Jake pointed it out one day while we were doing an engine swap. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? They treated you like you were worthless. And now you're doing better than all of them combined. He was right. It was poetic. Also kind of sad, but not sad enough to go back and fix it for them. Year 2 brought the foreclosure notice. I heard about it from Aunt Karen, who'd actually been decent through all this. She didn't pressure me to come back, just kept me updated on what was happening. They're losing the house, she said over lunch. Bank's giving them 60 days to get current or they're out. How much are they behind? About $12,000. I didn't say anything. That was roughly what I had in savings. Money I'd earned working at the shop, money I'd saved for emergencies or future opportunities. I know what you're thinking, Karen said. And I'm not asking you to bail them out, but I wanted you to know. Thanks for telling me. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice leaving. Your dad's always been stubborn, and your mom enabled Ashley's behavior for years. But they're still family. Family that chose Ashley over me every single time. I know. Just wanted you to have all the information. I thought about it for a few days. $12,000 would save their house. Would keep them from being homeless. Would solve their immediate problem. It would also teach them that I'd come running whenever they needed rescuing. That they could treat me like garbage. And I'd still be their safety net. I didn't give them the money. They lost the house in November. Moved into a small rental across town. 2 bedrooms for 4 people counting the baby. Dad found work at a retail store. Mom was doing data entry from home. Ashley was living with them. Still not working. Completely dependent. That Christmas, I got one card. From Ashley. Inside was a picture of the baby, now almost a year old, with a note. Merry Christmas from your niece Emily. She'd love to meet her uncle someday. We're at 847 Pine Street if you ever want to visit. Ashley. The manipulation was obvious. Using the baby to guilt me into contact. But I looked at that picture for a long time. Kid had Ashley's eyes, my dad's nose. Completely innocent in all this family drama. I almost drove over there. Almost. Then I remembered Ashley's smug face when Dad suspended me. Remembered years of her lies and manipulations. Remembered my parents choosing her over me every single time. I threw the card away. Bobby asked if I was okay. Told him about the card. About almost caving. Would have been easy to drive over there, he said. Play the hero. Meet the baby. Make peace. Yeah, but, but nothing would have changed. Ashley would still be the golden child. I'd still be the backup plan. Probably right. I know I'm right. He poured us both coffee. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Takes guts to stick to your principles when family's involved. Thanks. You're doing good, kid. Better than good. Don't let guilt make you forget that. Present day. I'm 22 now. Bobby made me a 50-50 partner last month after 4 years of working together. We're opening a second location next spring. I bought a house. Small, but mine. Fixing it up room by room using skills I learned at the shop. Got a girlfriend. Met her when she brought her car in for brake work. She's a teacher, smart and funny. Doesn't care that I'm a mechanic instead of having some fancy college degree. Likes that I can fix things and work with my hands. My family? Still struggling from what I hear. Dad's working retail management now. Better than before, but not great. Mom's hours are steady, but the pay is low. Ashley's still living with them. Finally got a part-time job at a coffee shop, but it barely covers her expenses. Emily's almost 3. I've never met her. Don't plan to. Last month, Dad showed up at the shop one final time. Didn't ask for money this time. Just wanted to talk. I was wrong, he said. About that day with Ashley. About suspending you. About all of it. Okay. I'm not asking you to come back or forgive us. Just wanted you to know I see it now. How we failed you. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to stay angry. Keep that wall up. But mostly, I just felt tired of carrying it. I appreciate you saying that, I told him. We're proud of you. What you've built here. The man you've become. Little late for that. I know. But I needed to say it. He left. Haven't heard from him since. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.